Academy. I've known Helen for a very long time. If you stay in education long enough, you get to know a lot of people and they just kind of stay in the education business. But I'm going to turn it over to Helen, but she is such a good communicator between parents and teachers, and she has spoken for us before for several things, and I'm going to turn it over to Helen.
Thank you, Sandy. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. Preschool and kindergarten teachers really have a special place in my heart. I spent my first 11 years teaching 3s, 4s, and 5s. So there are many days that things get hectic in the office, and I wander down to the pre-K or kindergarten classroom and just make myself at home. You know, all my troubles seem to go away, and it really gives you a boost. So I hope that in our experiences today, we can share some things that will help you, because parents are a big part of school, no matter what age child you teach. You know, as educators, our lives and our concerns are focused on children, teaching the basics, instilling morals, developing creative minds. But before we talk about parent communications, I want to share a little about our children with you. And I'll tell you, following them is a very hard act, but, and I'm not going to even try. I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum. From the innocence of pre-kindergartners to the raging hormones of 6th graders, to the sophisticated seniors, we often refer to our children as our future. They, as much as they are a part of our future, they are very much a part of our present day as well. These are the children that we call fine, beautiful, intelligent, spirited. These are the children we call easy to love. Well, most of the time. But let's not forget that there are those less fortunate children, those less cared about children, those children whose parents really didn't want them, that are very much a part of our present and our future as well. You know, the way we respond to children's needs is how they're going to remember their present and how their future is likely going to be determined. Now, we usually do, and we should, call all of our children blessings, because they are gifts from God. You know, most children we know are also children that for the most part are very comfortable. iPods, cell phones, everything they could possibly want. You know most of those children. I had a 2nd grader at camp just a few weeks ago pull out his iPhone that really did work. But you know, there are countless millions of children who are very uncomfortable through no fault of their own. Children who are hungry, children who are suffering from disease, children whose parents are going through divorce, children who are neglected, children who are abused, and yes, children who have no feeling of self-worth. Some of these children are children at our MPSA schools. Still, they too are blessings from God, and their comfort or discomfort largely depends on how we treat them as part of God's family. We have the power and the resources to lift them up out of their pain. And we may not feel that we're responsible for these children, but as members of God's family, we are responsible to them. You know, the Bible is filled with stories depicting Jesus' compassion, and Naomi said so much about that with children as he would stop to talk to the children. And we must be just as compassionate to our children and love those children that come to us at school, whether they're dirty, whether you open their backpacks and it smells like smoke, they're uninterested. You know, those are the children who really need our love and attention. The very least thing that we can do is to pray for our children that are in our classroom. Pray for these children, and if we stop for a moment and realize what's happening to children around the world, we will more likely pray for these children. We still hear of thousands of children around the world who are starving, dying of disease. And in countries filled with war, there are children who have died. Over 4 million have been crippled, and another 4 million are refugees. Now, wars in the world are a long way from Mississippi. But think for a moment about the day in a life of an American child. And especially in this day and age when many of our children's parents are serving at their country overseas. But think about the American children. 8,000 are reported as being abandoned or abused every day. 3 children die from child abuse every day. 13 die from gun accidents every day. Over 100 babies die before their first birthday. 1,500 teenagers have babies every day. Nearly 3,000 children drop out of school every day. We had one in our school this year. Over 2,000 children see their parents divorce every day. And another 100,000 children are homeless. Again, whether we like to admit it or not, some of these children are children at our schools. These are the uncomfortable children who need our compassion, our love, and our prayers. But our comfortable children need our compassion, love, and prayers just as much, because their lives now and their lives in the future are affected by what goes on and the experience they have in an average day in school. Now, on the parent communications. When you're a preschool teacher, we all must remember that we are dealing, in most instances, with a parent's most precious possession. And they should be. Parents are the children's first influential teachers, and what the parents do, no matter how they do, makes that first impression and has more to do with their academic success than how well off they are, how well those parents parent children. Now, you're also in the position of being the first one, probably, to burst that parent's bubble. You know that parent that comes to you every year, and she's very gifted. She is so smart. He is the most brilliant child. I just cannot imagine. He is going to be a math whiz. You know that. Well, we get to say, you know, they're just normal. They're just normal children. How many of you have had to do that before? Burst that bubble. It's fun, isn't it? Well, you as teachers are so valuable to the learning process because you have got to maintain some sense of continuity and keep those parents believing that their child is the most precious possession they have, but also being a little more realistic as to what expectations they should have for that child. Now, I've been in this business for 30 years, and one of my third grade teachers tells me that in her next life, she wants to teach in an orphanage. You know why? There'll be no parents. It's great to teach in an orphanage where there's just children. And, I think a lot about that. I could have easily gone into horticulture.